Welcome to Longbox Diving, where we explore comics and story arcs pulled from the Longbox. We want to share with you different story arcs and our thoughts, and then finish it off with a live round table to discuss this all with you guys. See, we start off with the Trinity Ascend story arc from DC. And why? Because I like it. I don't know about the other two. We'll find out more about that later. Now, I wanted to start with this episode with the covers of the story arc. There are 11 different issues in this story arc. It consists of Justice League 23 through 23, Justice League of America 6 through 7, Justice League Dark 22 through 23, Trinity of Sin Pandora 1 through 3, Constantine number 5, and Trinity of Sin Phantom Stranger issue 11. Now, I really enjoyed most of the covers in this arc. The Jim Lee cover of the Trinity with Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman. Wow, looks really good. And you can see Pandora in the background with her mystic guns, and she looks really cool too, and kind of scary. So, and I like the fact that he gave all of them equal billing on the cover. They're all equal, they're all part of it, they're all important. So, Jim Lee also did a nice wraparound cover of the JLA facing off against the Justice League of America. Now, little backstory here. Waller put together the Justice League of America to counter the JLA power to power. And I like this idea, and it works well here on this cover and in the story. I also like seeing Captain Marvel looking like Black Adam. I like seeing Cyborg. He looks really good on this cover, except for what's happening down below the waist. I am not sure if that's his hip or if it's his behind. It's just very confusing. I also like to see Superman. Looks really cool. Stretch across both covers, and he has the primary position on the cover. And then we come to the Pandora cover. It's okay. She is front and center. The box is there, but there's a lot of people on the cover that are not in the story or in the story arc anywhere, and I really like my covers to tell me what's happening in the story. It's a good cover, but it doesn't make a lot of sense. Now, we actually start the story with the Seven Wizards and the Council of Wizards of Shazam. The council looks really cool, and the wizards they're coming from Norse, Chinese, African, American Indian culture, and they have three different people chained in front of them, and they are called the Trinity of Sin. You have Pandora, you have the Phantom Stranger, and you have the Question. And they're there to punish them for some evil they had done. Now, I like the Seven Wizards. They look really cool. They got glowing stuff flashing all over the place. They're looking really good, looking really strong. But I'm not sure why they get to punish people or why they're the ones that get to punish evil. And the story really doesn't explain why that is. But the Phantom Stranger is punished first. Now, he gets 30 pieces of silver cast around his neck. It's kind of like Goff John is trying to tie him to Judas Iscariot in the Bible. And see, the Phantom Stranger actually says, hey, please forgive me like he would. That kind of further cements the idea that he is Judas Iscariot. He then is punished to walk the earth forever, seeing the cost of his greed. The Question is next, and he kind of is portrayed as a vain conqueror, and he's conquered a lot of things, and he threatens to come back and punish them all. But he is punished with forgetting who he is, forgetting his name will never be known, and that he has to ask questions all the time. Now we come to Pandora. Now, Pandora is being punished, but she actually appears to be innocent. She doesn't really understand what she did wrong, and we are later told that she was actually tricked into opening Pandora's box, but she is punished anyway. We then see Pandora looking for the box, and she is looking in a place called the Black Room. And apparently there are secret vaults all around the world. We see places like Argus, the Red Room, and they even mentioned a place called the Circus. Not really sure what those are, or they're not really explained, but they apparently hold things that are really scary and really powerful. Now, Pandora has aged. Gray hair, looking older. She's got the scars on her face. And she can do magic feats. She has feats of strength. She seems to be fast and agile. She's shooting bullets, magic bullets. Now, I like this page because it tells the story without a lot of dialogue. It's just art. And the art tells the story. You know what's happening. I like the magic bullets that she uses, the magic symbols around it. I probably could have left the blam, blam, blam stuff out. But It's cool. And we also see Colonel Trevor for the first time in the story. Also cool. Now we go and get into the meat of the story. We go way back into the past to about 8,000 BCE. And we see what Pandora did that got her into a lot of trouble. Now, one day she was out walking in the woods, runs across a golden sky with a golden skull with 3 eyes on it. And she opens it. Who does that? I stay away from golden skulls. I don't touch them. I don't open them. No. But she does. She opens the skull, and out comes the 7 deadly sins. This page of her opening the skull is really cool. I like the color differences between the sins. And this page just kind of pops for me. It's really cool looking. We then get a 2-page spread naming all the sins, and we get our first good look at what they look like. And most of them are really kind of nasty. We get envy, gluttony, pride, greed, sloth, wrath, and lust. Wrath looks like a beast. The dude looks strong. Got the hood, the red hood, colored red like wrath. It's very cool looking. Pride is portrayed as a very beautiful woman. Like the idea that they're not all just scary monsters. And we begin to see good use of color here. The color different. It's very good. But once the release, the sins destroy Pandora's village, and weirdly, they keep calling her mother. I don't know why. She's the mom. We now go through a montage of Pandora living and training, and she sees what the sins are doing to humanity, and she vows to stop them. So she tries to stop the sins, can't. Then she tries to destroy them, can't. So she starts seeking help where, anywhere, everywhere she can. She even actually ends up in the Holy Land during the Crusades. And she meets a Vandal Savage for the first time. Didn't go well. They're not friends. They're not buddies, but they're both immortal. That comes into play later. She then seeks the master her pain and master martial arts. So she's going to Kung Lao type place. She's going to learn the different systems of martial arts fighting. She learns how to fight with all manner of weapons and how to exceed her physical limitations. She even learns to fight spirits in the spirit realm and able to injure spirits on the spirit realm. Now, time has passed, and she has a guy. I wish I had a guy just like this. He makes all different kinds of weapons for her. Weapons that she can actually use. She uses to fight the sins. It's very cool. Guns, knives, mystical stuff. It's very awesome. That's when Shazam shows up. Now, Shazam comes out of nowhere, comes up to her and says, we messed up. We shouldn't have punished you. We were wrong. And I've used the last of my power to find you and to let you know. We blew it. Messed up. No good. So what he tells her, she needs to find a way to open the box. Now, Pandora swears she'll never open the box. She's not going to do that. She's not going to open the box ever. He's like, the box needs to be open to conquer the sins and save mankind. So he tells her she needs at least the purest of heart or the darkest of heart to open the boxes. Again, this comes into play later. It kind of sets up what's going on and why this whole Trinity War thing is happening. Shazam then explodes into nothing. Just lightning comes down. He's dead. At least it seems he's dead. Nothing. Then Pandora decides she's got to open the box. She needs to save humanity. She's going to try to get the box open. And she has to find the purest of hearts. She's decided to go with the purest of hearts instead of the darkest of hearts. Makes sense to me. So she thinks, who is the purest of hearts in all the world? And that's what we see in the last panel. We see Superman's emblem. Now, she's got to find Superman. Yep, the Boy Scout, the purest of hearts. Got to find him. He will save everybody. And we'll see later if that's actually true. So far, good start. I like this arc, and I like where it's going. And as we continue to review these things, hopefully you'll join us in further episodes. Thanks.
Guess what I'm covering? Doop-a-doop-boop. Yeah, this video is going to cover the next 2 issues in the Trinity War arc. Trinity War. However, it will contain spoilers for the ending because I happen to like foreshadowing, and I can't help but discuss it. So, we open up in the Greenwich Village with an unfamiliar woman looking for help from the occult. Ooh. She stumbles into Madame Xanadu's shop. And this is an interesting coincidence. While writing the script, I noticed that the sign for future goes out. And if you read ahead, you know that this shop has no future. Whether or not that's actually the intent, I don't know, but that's cool coincidence. That's cool foreshadow. They begin to start the psychic reading. And the strange woman begins to describe it as internal stress. What Madame Xanadu sees in her vision is devastation and the word Trinity. Trinity War. Trinity War. Yeah, that's what the book is titled. This panel looks great. The city's destroyed. You can tell both Superman and Batman have been in some sort of fight or maybe danger, damage, something. The third person there is probably Wonder Woman. You'd have to guess. And the motif of threes is seen pretty often in the Trinity arc. But yeah, you can see it here with Wonder Woman, Superman, and Batman. Batman references a hymn. We don't know who the hymn is, and I haven't read the next arc yet. But I have to assume it means Shazam. Backed up with Madame Xanadu saying outright that Shazam will cause all of this. But how will he cause all of this? That's what I'm looking forward to seeing in the next arc is... Well, no, I'm pretty sure I know why he caused all of this, or how. That's ahead. Speaking about Shazam, we have a whole 2 pages about him going to go bury Black Adam's ashes. Not because he asked for it, but because Billy felt he should go and bury Black Adam's ashes. The next page we see is Wonder Woman and Superman having a discussion on dealing with villains. In a similar vein to how Billy treats Black Adam with respect and honor, even if he's a bad guys get burials. Superman will keep a villain locked up, even knowing full well that the villain will escape. Wonder Woman has a great line with her view of getting rid of villains. When I deal with them, I deal with them. And if you look up their Classic Rogues Gallery, according to Wikipedia, Superman has 39 classic villains. Batman has 24. Flash, Barry Allen, has 23. And Wonder Woman has 17. Granted, popularity of characters helps with that, but for comics, it's a good nod. And yeah, this is, I know, the new 52. The new 52. But still, point is, the disagreement continues between those two. And it continues straight up to Wonder Woman admitting that she'd be willing to kill her villains. Medusa is an example of this in the comics. Superman couldn't bring himself, by his own admission, to kill a villain, even if he knew they were absolutely evil. But Wonder Woman has a lasso of truth. She can be the judge, jury, and executioner. Superman doesn't want to. We next see Pandora. Hi, Pandora. Well, remember you from the first video. And she shows up with her box in front of Superman and Wonder Woman. She believes Superman is the purest of heart. Our good Boy Scout Superman who could do no wrong. She forces Pandora's box into Superman's hands. But of course, the Boy Scout with a perceived God complex could never be... Oh. Who could have seen that coming? Superman turns into Mr. Sinister in one of the coolest panels of this arc. It looks dope. It's pretty cool. He looks like Mr. Sinister. And Pandora freaks out. So does Wonder Woman, for that matter. Pandora gets the box away from Superman and teleports out. Side note, JLA is formed to stop the Justice League in case the Justice League ever goes evil. And the Justice League are trying to stop Shazam from causing an international incident, so the JLA have to stop the Justice League from stopping Shazam. But yeah, Shazam, as we'll get to, is a child, emotionally. And when people are shooting at him, even though he's invulnerable from bullets. He about starts a international incident by going and beating up foreign power. But you know who stops him? Superman! That's right, kids. Superman stops him. It's a cool panel to see Shazam toss Superman. The Superman. Like it was nothing. That's pretty cool. That's pretty dope. And if you see the following two panels of the video, you could see Shazam's just childlike excitement of doing something awesome. Like, I just tossed Superman, guys. That kind of cool. And I can't help but love Billy's joy and how the artist drew his face of, this is, yeah, in the middle of the battle, it's not done, it's not over, but he's so excited he tossed Superman, and then Superman gets real. Yeah. Superman is not trying to fight Billy or beat him up or anything. This naivety ends fast. Then the Justice League of America shows up. Ta-da! And everyone gets into an argument of who should leave first. That's what it boils down to. Is who has the authority to make other people leave first. And none of them step out. Unfortunately, Dr. Light steps forward to try and defuse the situation. However, he begins to absorb light off of Superman. Like a battery. And he hits Wonder Woman with a ray of light. Wonder Woman, not injured, completely fine. Superman, however, goes ballistic and blows up Dr. Light's head with I-beams. Reasonable approach. Something might be wrong with Superman. It's an interesting contrast because Superman immediately knows, I just killed an innocent dude. An innocent dude. And it goes in complete contrast of what he said a few pages earlier of how he would never kill a villain. And this man is a complete innocent. And Superman killed him. You'd be right. He is right to hate himself over this. We didn't see a fight. Fight breaks out. People are pissed. JLA goes up against the Justice League. And it's some cool panels. Like, if you haven't seen them, go and buy them. Go buy these comics. Those are some cool panels of just fighting between the two Justice Leagues. Vibe has a very cool scene where he shuts down Flash by interrupting the energy Flash uses to travel. And how many people can stop the Flash like that? How many people? It's also worthy to note that Vibe mentions something not of our world, but he doesn't get a chance to say it. Superman gets fed up. Everyone's fighting, beating each other up. And he says, everyone stop. He surrenders himself to the JLA. And they take him back to Argus. Both Justice Leagues and Shazam go with him to Argus. And they just camp out and have a nice long talk. Firestorm, a side note, gets asked to make kryptonite, which is really cool. Like Firestorm can go through and try different combinations to make kryptonite. All in the case of Superman keeps going insane. That's a cool thing of keep trying combinations until you make kryptonite. Go. Yeah. Wonder Woman's pretty upset that Waller made a secret Justice League. So there's some argument about that. And our great Superman, the purest of heart, is torturing himself over killing a man. And he continues to do that. Rightfully so. But yeah. Meanwhile, all of that was going on. Xanadu figures everything out. Fact, she says Superman is not the murderer. That it was not his fault. But she doesn't get to say anything because the woman in front of her is Plastique. Cool little twist. I didn't know about Plastique. Now I do. She blows things up. Hence, the shop has no future. We actually get to see a lot of tarot cards than most people in the story, which I like those. I like to see them because they have nice little hints for the future, and there's a lot of little detail put into them. But they were also given. I got hair in the middle of my face. But they were also given time and attention, so that was neat, and plus like 3 panels. But a couple of the cards. Pandora's card is the hostage, which is interesting because who is her captor? Who is holding Pandora hostage? Bit of spoiler: is it the Council of Seven? Her 7 sins? The box? Is she holding herself captive of not letting herself free? Or is it the outsider? It's not clear. And I don't know. I'm not entirely sure, but I guess we'll find out maybe next arc. The next card is Phantom Stranger, which is labeled as a betrayer. Completely makes sense. Phantom Stranger's Judas Iscariot. Yeah, he betrayed Jesus in the Bible. That makes sense. And I guess in DC. I still have hair in my face. This is going to be embarrassing. Yeah. That's it. The question is labeled as the unknown. Makes perfect sense because his whole shtick is not knowing himself and always looking for the next unknown, answering the next question. The last card of these 4 is the outsider. And with hindsight, the description makes sense, but that's at the end of the story. We're not there yet. The motif of 3 is on his card specifically, with 3 stars. Take that with a healthy dose of salt. That could be a great foreshadow, or it could just be an artist's decision. Pandora, as an example, the first time we see her tarot card has 3 stars. However, just a couple pages later, her tarot card has 4. So, take it with some salt. Other interesting cards in the Justice League are Adam, the game player. We'll get to that. Cyborg, the grid, which I will talk about later because it's really neat, and I misinterpreted it. The other one that was interesting to me was Flash being the messenger, and I'm not sure why. Everyone else's made thematic sense for the character. The only thing I can think of is maybe they're tying Hermes to the Flash. I'm not sure. Hermes would be a good fit. It's a weird title. Interesting cards in the JLA. Vibe as a misfit, and what was her name? Stargirl? Yeah, Stargirl as a spear. I don't know either character well enough. I could not tell you if those fit. Maybe somebody else can comment down in the comments if that is appropriate for them, because I don't know either character well enough. I know Vibe was from the 90s. I don't know him well. I might be wrong on that. But, yeah, I'm just not familiar with either. Dr. Light is a sacrifice, which we can tell makes sense, but who is the sacrificer? Who is the one that sacrificed Dr. Light and put him in that position? There's a reason for that, and I'm interested in the logic behind that. After the explosion of the shop, after the fight, Batman and Wonder Woman are talking about how to help Superman. They disagree. Batman believes they should work on logic and reason and science. There is a reason Superman went crazy, and it's not his fault. There must be a villain who did this to him. Batman believes this is not his fault. There must be something that did it to him. Wonder Woman, on the other hand, believes this is because of Pandora's box. Because, he's the only one that touched Pandora's box. He is the only one that went crazy. There's some logic there. There's some really good logic there. So, Wonder Woman decides she believes it's Pandora's box. What is she going to do? She's going to meet Hephaestus, the Greek god of forging and technology and etc., anything to do with crafting. Hephaestus. Which he looks like a purple monster for some reason. I believe in the mythology he was ugly, but not an alien. Again, DC. It's an adaptation. That said, she goes and visits the maker of Pandora's box in mythology. And Hephaestus is like, I didn't do it. Would that mean? No. He has no clue where it came from. He didn't make it. He has no clue why people are attributing to him. Yeah, he does, however, say Pandora found it and the Temple of Hephaestus. Side note, that is not what we saw in the comics. In the original comics, for Pandora's own memory, she was in the Stone Age and found it in the middle of nowhere. So, interesting contradiction. Either maybe there's just miscommunication on DC's part, or there's a conspiracy theory. I'm inclined to believe the conspiracy theory. I'm rambling. So, the idea didn't pan out. Who does Wonder Woman turn to? But the mythology. Justice League Dark. The supernatural. The people who are maybe not myth, maybe not science, but more. Justice League Dark. We then see the Question, looking like Steve Trevor. It's probably not what he sounds like, I'm sure. And he sneaks into Argus and asks if Superman wants to find out the truth. Who did this to him? End of the comic. Overall, I enjoyed the fighting scenes. I've enjoyed the story up to this point. It's been good. I have critiques of it. I'll get into it a little bit. We'll probably talk more about it later. Of the two issues I covered, I like the first one better with the story and art. It's just more appealing to me. But neither one are bad comics. They're good. Looking back through this arc with the knowledge I have of finishing it, spoilers for the ending, if you're reading this along with me, the grid makes a ton of sense for Cyborg, guys. I assumed it was computer grid or network or something related to that, but no, it is straight up grid. That is really cool. Really good foreshadowing, and the tarot card never showed his face. I love it. Guys, that's great. The gameplay, when I read through it the first time, and it was given to Adam, that was weird to me. This is another one where it stood out to me immediately. Of the game player. And of course she had already been said, oh yeah, she's playing both sides, but she wasn't. She wasn't playing either side. She was hanging around Element Woman and just asking everyone to stop. That did not sound like game player to me. If anyone, that should have applied to Amanda Waller. So I was like, it's a weird thing. Why is that given to her? Because she hasn't done anything. Except she has, and that was a great twist. I did not see that coming. I'm like, this doesn't make sense. Why does that not make sense? And then, well, duh, now it does. Yeah, good foreshadowing. I loved it. Something I did not love, and I'm going to go back to the last set of issues. I will never, ever, ever stop being annoyed. Ever. That the Outsider's whole plan rested on the Wizard. The Wizard had to convince Pandora to take the skull to the purest of hearts and the darkest of hearts. She had to take it to the purest of hearts so that way Superman can touch it and everyone would be convinced that it was because of Pandora's box that Superman went crazy. She had to do that. That means the Wizard had to convince her of that. But we never see anyone ever trying to manipulate the Wizard to do that. Ever. It's just like, oh yeah, the Wizard made a bad call. The end. And it's such a crucial plot point That it's not like other ones where if Shazam hadn't gone Kahndaq, they couldn't have done it again. Like, the plan could have continued in another way. No, this required the wizard, the one who knew about her punishment, to say, we screwed up. It really was supposed to be this. And if anything, if we had received anything at anywhere in this arc of maybe somebody influenced mentally the wizard to make a bad call, maybe somebody tricked Pandora mentally, maybe, I don't know, they had Dr. Ivo create a robotic wizard, something, but there was nothing to influence the wizard's call. And maybe it's in a different issue, maybe I'm just missing it, but it's not in this arc. It's not in this arc where it's explained how that happened. It just happened, and there's no push from it. There's no reason for it. That bugs me. I'm done. We'll talk about this more next time. See you. Have a good one.
Welcome to Longbox Diving, where we explore comics and story arcs pulled from the long box. We continue with the Trinity of Sin story arc, and things are getting a little crazy. Captain Marvel's in the mix. Superman just killed Dr. Light. We saw this in the last episode. And JLA against the Justice League, against Justice League Dark. And nobody really understands what's going on. Nobody really knows what's happening or why. And so I want to start off this episode with a continuation of Jim Lee's covers, the wraparound covers. They are really awesome. And see, in this one here, we see Constantine, Deadman, Frankie, Frankenstein's monster. So I guess we'll be getting a little bit more of the Justice League Dark in this series of comics. So we start out with this issue with the Outsider and Madame Xanadu, and she is being held hostage. She thinks he wants to use her for some reason, but the fact is he just wants to keep her locked down until his game, and keep her out of the game so she can't warn anybody about what's really going on. So if he can keep her here long enough, then nobody can do anything to stop his plan. No ruining it. It's going to go the way he wants it to go. So, but I had some questions, like, why is she strapped to a chair that looks like it's used to execute prisoners? This is kind of weird, and I'm not really sure why that is. But one thing is sure, this dude is creepy. He looks like some old English gentleman with his cane, his overcoat, his bowler. And there is one panel where he actually tried to touch her face, and his hands were really white. I mean, like undead white, like vampire, zombie white. And I'm not sure if that's intentional or somebody just didn't color it right. Maybe the Outsider is actually undead, or maybe he just lives in a basement and doesn't get a lot of sun. The dude, either way, should probably stop scheming and go hit the beach. Now we're over to Firestorm. And see, Waller asked him to create kryptonite. And he was able to, making him, now, my opinion, Superman's biggest threat. And since Superman just killed someone, I'd be a little worried if I were Firestorm. So Waller walks in and says, hey, were you able to create kryptonite? And he's like, yeah, 100% sure we got it. I was a little puzzled here, a little confused. I know Firestorm can change things down a molecular level, down the atomic level of an object. And he can create things or convert things on the atomic structure. But he doesn't know what the atomic structure of kryptonite is. At least I don't think he does. Isn't kryptonite, it's not from Earth, it's from Krypton. So how would he have experienced this? How would he know this? This makes it even harder for him to reproduce. How can he even be 100% sure that he made kryptonite unless he has kryptonite to actually compare it to? And if he actually has something he can compare it to, then why is he making kryptonite? They already have kryptonite. In the end, none of this actually really matters. So, the third member of the Trinity is finally making an appearance, the Phantom Stranger. I really don't know much about this guy. Honestly, I don't know a lot of his history or the story in the comics. And we don't really know much about him, or we don't find out much about him in this comic either. So, we just kind of roll along with the story, and he seems to really play a minor role. He seems more like a plot device than really a member of the story or an integral part of the story. So the question breaks Superman out of his cell, and that he was in. And Superman is out to find out who brainwashed him. So the question kind of told him there was this mental guy, this psychic, telepath. It was in Kahndaq at the time that Superman killed Dr. Light, and maybe he was the one that actually caused you to do this thing. Though Superman is kind of turning green, so I'm not 100% sure why anybody didn't notice this. Well, he's turning green. So the whole Firestorm foreshadowing and the green skin should have clued everybody in to what actually is going on with Superman. But we haven't actually said it yet. And this image of Superman with his green and with he's turning green with glowing red eyes, it is very convincing. He is not feeling well. And look, he's even sweating. And I can't remember the last time I saw Superman sweat. I don't know when it happened. I mean, maybe he has. I can't remember when it was. So now we have Wonder Woman, and she has found Justice League Dark, and is being convinced that Superman has been affected by Pandora's box. Of course, Constantine, being the jerk that he is, says Superman should just be marked off as a loss. Wonder Woman is not happy about that, and in this panel, she looks like she's going to bust his face in. I'm not saying I'd really be upset with that either. And I love when Constantine looks at Frank and says, "Hey, can I get some help?" And Frankie's like, "No, I don't think so. I wouldn't want to fight Wonder Woman either." And I guess Frankie didn't want to fight her. But basically, Superman is the best warrior he's ever seen, and they should do everything they can to help. So they decide to go ahead and help Wonder Woman to figure out where Pandora's box is. And that's when we get this panel. Batman shows up with the Justice League of America and the JLA, kind of a mix of them, and they are here to stop Wonder Woman from finding the box to help Superman. And I love this line from Batman, "Or we'll make you stop." So back to Superman. He is trying to escape, and this is probably one of the funniest scenes in this whole comic series. Some random guard shoots Superman with a laser beam type weapon, some energy weapon, and it hits Superman. And honestly, the dude was just doing his job. But really, what did he expect to happen? It's Superman. And you just shot him with a beam weapon. And he's sick. And he just killed the dude. So I was thinking at this point, I see Superman stare at him and his eyes starts glowing. And I was thinking at this point, like, Superman already killed somebody. And, dude, you're next. But the next panel, we see the dude standing there going, stuttering. Yep, yeah, me too. I probably would have tried to run. Not that it would have helped. And I wouldn't have been surprised if he'd wet himself at that point, because Superman looking like that, looking at me like that, yeah, I'd be scared. Now we have three teams. The Trinity motif is again present here. We have three main teams, three of them. So we have Superman's team. I like to think of this team as the team of the brute force, and it's probably the strongest team physically. So we have Superman, Firestorm, Martian Manhunter. We have Cyborg and Elemental Lady and some others. They're flying off to Kahndaq to find the mental telepath who they think mind-controlled Superman into killing Dr. Light. Then we have Batman's team. Batman's team, I like to think of it as the detective team. And we actually see Batman, Flash, Katana, Catwoman, Vibe, Colonel Trevor, and the Phantom Strangers join them. This team will do what they do best, which is interviewing a witness. And the witness they're going to interview is Dr. Light. How they do that, we'll find that out later. Kind of interesting. So they'll be going off into the afterlife. The last team is Wonder Woman, the mystical team, and they're planning to go after Pandora. So on that team we have Frankie, Stargirl, Black Orchid, Hawkman, Deadman, Aquaman, and Zatanna. And then we have Pandora, and they're going to go after Pandora. And then we see Pandora. Pandora's running through some alleyway, trying to keep the box hidden and trying to protect it for some reason. So now we're back to the outsider with Madame Xanadu, and he's flinging tarot cards out into the air. And we kind of discussed the tarot cards last episode, where each one of the members of the different teams kind of have their own card and kind of a name with it, associated with it. But there was one thing that I really noticed, and there was another foreshadowing event here. There are two cards, front and center, that are still face down. Now, at this time, the outsider is looking at Madame Xanadu and says, "I have a mole. I've already defeated the teams. I have a mole on the team." And there's two cards face down. And if you take the time to actually look at all the cards and all the different people on the cards, you'll notice 2 people are not present, and you'll know who the moles are. Moles. Spoiler warning. So, and that was actually really cool, because I did not notice it the first time I went through this. I didn't see that until I got to the end. I went back and started looking at this. I was like, that is really cool. So if you look at it, I won't tell you who it is. We'll probably tell you sometime in a later episode, because we have to finish the story at some point. But if you want to go check it out yourself, I'll leave this for you to do. Now, in this next episode, comic, we have Constantine's comic. And I like the cover here. It looks really cool, and it tells me what's going on and what's going to happen in this issue. And I know I keep harping on this, but I think it's really important that the cover kind of conveys what's going on in the story. I mean, that's why people buy comics. One of the reasons people buy comics is what's happening on the cover. It's cool. Is it cool? And I like that when going into it, going, I know what the story is going to be about. Boom, I like it. So in this issue, it kind of starts like an old joke. Constantine and Shazam walk into a bar, because that literally is what they do. They walk into a bar. So, the panel looks really cool, but this whole issue really didn't have much to do with the overall story of the Trinity War. It kind of was just there, and things happened that were kind of cool, but it was just kind of there. So Constantine actually steals Captain Marvel's powers, but get this, swapping voices with him. Billy Batson now sounds like Constantine, and Constantine now sounds like Billy Batson. Yeah, it was that easy. You would think the Wizard Shazam actually should have put some type of voice encryption, something, to make it a little bit harder than just steal his voice. Okay. But, so Constantine actually changes into Captain Marvel, takes the mantle of Captain Marvel, becomes this big, super powered being. But he realizes he can't contain this power for long, and he's trying to keep Captain Marvel from messing with Pandora's box. He has a good goal in mind. But at the same time, a demon realizes he had done this thing, that he is there at the bar, and goes to attack him. So now Constantine fights this demon as Shazam, kind of gets his tail whooped. Billy Batson actually saves the day by sounding like Constantine, throwing and confusing the demon off. Constantine was able to grab the demon, rip it apart, and Billy Batson steals his power back. Now, Constantine is laying on the ground, bleeding out, saying, hey, stay away from the box. Don't touch the box. And this is important because it plays into later. And, of course, Billy Batson looks at him and says, you're a meanie. I don't like you. And leaves. And so he is a kid. And, again, a kid doesn't listen to what the adult's trying to tell him. And that causes problems later, as we'll find out. So now we're back to Pandora and her issue of this arc, and we see the gun guy and the gun guy's back, great guy, and had all these weapons laid out on the table: mystical, melee weapons, guns, a mirror. But we also find out the gun guy has actually been reincarnated 200 times. That's a lot. You figure that whatever he needs to get right in his life, he probably would have done it by then. But he's been reincarnated 200 times, and we see all these weapons, and she is gearing up for something. She knows something's coming, and she's got to do whatever she has to do. Then we see Vandal Savage. Vandal Savage is with his goon squad. He's getting ready to do some sort of evil plan. He has got this giant girl and another dude that's able to read signals of some sort, and he's getting ready to pull off some evil thing. So Panda shows up and confronts him, and instantly gets pummeled by this gigantic woman, bashed into the ground, just knocked flat. And that panel actually looks really cool. I like how it's done. Again, not a lot of language, just she's smashed. Then we get another panel, again, my favorite kind, where it's just art, and there's like one word on the whole page, and she's fighting Vandal, and it's a cool fight scene, guns, bullets, blades, everything's going on. It's really cool. I like it. Then she finally gets Vandal to wait, to stop, slow down. I need your help. I need you to open this box. Now, Pandora figures, since Superman, the purest of heart, could not open the box, and he actually turned evil, that maybe Vandal, being the darkest of hearts, could actually open the box. Vandal takes the box, tries to open it. We see all this red lightning again, just like we saw with Superman. We don't actually see him change, but things flash everywhere. Vandal Savage falls over yelling, and starts to cry. Yes, Vandal Savage was crying. Pandora stands over the top of him, says, well, I guess you have a little good in you somewhere. And you're of no use to me. Ouch. So, Pandora still can't find somebody to open the box. And she leaves, leaving Vandal Savage laying on the ground crying like a baby. Now, overall, this section of the story has some good moments, some interesting things. A lot of good foreshadowing. The cards, great use of foreshadowing there. I like it. Again, the warning of Shazam, don't touch the box. So many interesting stuff. Great one-page panels in this section of the story arc. I really enjoyed it. And so, well, I guess we'll just keep reading through this story and see how this actually ends and what actually happens. So thank you for joining us, and see you next time here in the Long Box.
Welcome to Long Box Comics, where we explore comics pulled from the long box. Except for this one. This one is a hardback. With the intro over, we open this issue with Batman, Katana, Phantom Stranger, and Deadman trying to enter heaven through purgatory. The last we knew, Dr. Light is in heaven, and they're trying to get answers from Dr. Light to see if he knew anything whatsoever, right? And while they're in purgatory, I want to take notice of the dead there. They have a cool ability where like tendrils come out of them, and if they hit you, they suck the life out of you, which is a cool ability. And the downside of this one is if it tries to suck the life out of it undead, which doesn't have life, they get stunned. I'd like to see this idea explored further, kind of like a comic of where people get trapped in purgatory, and now they have to flee, in a sense, from the undead. Or what if the undead in purgatory escape and they get down to earth? That would be cool. What if the undead from purgatory escape, they get down to earth, and they just begin sucking the life out of people? And the only people that can stop them are the undead, the Justice League Dark kind of people. That'd be neat. We're showing how they enter purgatory. It's in this strange mansion through a strange mirror. Of course, Phantom Stranger gives a ominous warning that he cannot go back to heaven, and he cannot try to release a soul, or else dun 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 dun. And when they do get into heaven, when they do find their way into heaven, led by a stranger, it looks quite different than they had imagined, than I had imagined. Most people probably didn't imagine seeing a neighborhood with bustling with activity, with people just running around this part of the neighborhood. It looks kind of like a neighbor, one of the boroughs in New York, right? It looks kind of like a city. However, that said, when they're looking around, Batman and Katana are not trained to deal with heaven, not at all. Stranger has been there before, and Deadman is dead. And we see Katana's heaven first. Katana's heaven is a peaceful grove by a calm lake, right? Where she sits with a loved one. I presume it's a loved one. It's inferred. And honestly, who can fault her for wanting to be with her loved one after he was lost? Or, like, who can fault Katana for that? Like, if you lost somebody you love dearly, you would do anything to be with him forever. And then Stranger's like, no, stop that. No, that's bad. You can't stay here. And Stranger interrupts Katana's heaven, and she's not happy because she just got torn from her loved one. And Stranger's like, let's go. And this is a panel where Katana is kneeling on the ground, full kit. All she says is 3 words. It's a plain white background. All she says is 3 words. I am sorry. And that is really powerful because that tells you a lot about her mental state right now. That she feels she failed her loved one. She failed her loved one by doing her duty. And that's an interesting state where she failed the one closest to her because she was pulled away by her job. Very, very powerful panel. It's just her but that's enough to get the statement across. Batman's heaven is him having Christmas as a little boy with his parents in Gotham, and everything is warm and cozy and nice, and we find out Batman's not actually participating in the heaven. He's not actually there. Batman wants to give into and you can tell he wants to give into the temptation. He wants to give up his duty for his loved ones, but he can't. He can't let himself relax. He has a job to do, and he has to get it done, but he can spare a moment for this heaven and just wish. Batman's wishing. You can tell he's wishing to be part of it, but he knows he can't. And this is true for Batman in the comics too, right? Is Batman could have a family. Batman could stop and have a loved one like Superman, right? Batman chooses a family, but all his entire family that he chooses is tortured and messed up, and they're all crime fighters, and they're consistently going and going and going and going and going until somebody snaps. Right? Batman does not let himself stop and relax and have a family. He has a duty. He has a job to do, and that takes precedence. The three of them now join up, and they're looking for Deadman. Deadman has been finding Dr. Light, and he has found Dr. Light. So he goes and retrieves the rest of the team and brings them to Dr. Light and says, "Look, Dr. Light is in a bubble, floating, bloop, 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 surrounded by a bunch of other light bubbles on a golden plane." Very pretty, right? That's not the heaven I would choose if I had a choice, because that would feel trapped. But, I mean, Dr. Light's a newborn. He doesn't actually know he's in heaven yet. So when they get there, Katana slices through the bubble, and it explodes. And Dr. Light pops out. He's weak. He's just got to heaven, and he's like, "Guys, I have no clue what you're talking about. I have no answers for you. This is a dead end." And yeah, Dr. Light knew nothing. While they're talking, we see dozens and dozens of angels fly in through the sky, led by Zoriel, I don't know. They banish Batman, Katana, and Deadman from heaven to purgatory, but they leave the Phantom Stranger. Zoriel's like, "You tried to free the souls of your family once before, and I warned you, if you did it again, we would kill you. And you've done it again." So Zoriel takes his giant sword, and flames start leaping out of it. And I don't know if you can see that, but I was doing the flame hand motion. And Phantom Stranger's burned, right? He's obliterated. However, Phantom Stranger's last thoughts is, with this day, I think the one I betrayed would be proud of me. Jesus, being proud that he was trying to do the right thing. I don't know. Nobody will ever know because Stranger's dead. In the meantime, a couple things have been occurring. Pandora has been trying to find the Darkest Hearts. Lex Luthor obviously must be the Darkest Hearts. Vandal Savage wasn't. We realize that now. Lex Luthor's the Darkest Hearts. We don't get to find out if he is yet. Because Superman and his team have been hunting down Dr. Psycho. He's currently operating on some patients, trying to warp their mind, push him to the edge, just drive a little bit insane. And then when the Justice League shows up, Psycho has to scramble. Like when you're a single villain faced down by a good group of the Justice League, some powerful members like the Martian Manhunter, John, Cyborg, Green Arrow, some other people I don't remember, you're gonna run. And there's some cool mind trickery kind of things where Arrow pulls a normal arrow and fires it at Dr. Psycho, but Martian Manhunter's like, "No, Arrow, that's not Psycho. That's Cyborg, and that's an explosive arrow." And then you see Cyborg get blown up. I can't explain it because I'm bad at it, but it's a cool panel. Seeing the trickery, right? And it's cool watching a villain know he's outmatched. This villain knows he's outclassed, and he's fleeing for his life, man. And he's running out the cave trying to get away, and he almost does, but then comes Superman, because Superman can see stuff. Superman flies down looking like he's been throwing up for the past hour. And he traps Psycho, and then John, now that he's trapped, goes up and probes Psycho's brain because excuse me, John gets to probe Psycho's brain because John is a Martian and probing is what Martians do. So he probes the brain and realizes Psycho knows nothing about how Superman went crazy. He was just told by the outsider and the rest of his group that he needs to go to Kahndaq and just stay in a hotel for a little bit. So their whole chase is a dead end. There's no results here. So they leave. Did they leave Psycho? I don't know. Let me know. Batman's team finally gets inside the mansion. So that is Catwoman, Green Lantern, Flash, some other people. They finally get in the mansion. They see the mirror. Catwoman asks who's the strangest of them all. They see the Phantom Stranger. And he pushes Batman, Katana, and Deadman out the mirror, which is a cool scene because you see them, those three jumping out the mirror, shards of glass are flying everywhere. Excuse me. And they get out. They're reunited finally. Superman's team are over here. Their whole chase was a dead end, almost like it was planned. Boop. And Wonder Woman's team. Well, Wonder Woman's team are chasing Pandora, which is exactly where we find them next. As Pandora is about to hand the box to Lex Luthor, which would not be a bad thing. If one, Lex Luthor is the darkest of hearts, he gets to open the box. And we finally get to see the result. Two, if he's not, he just breaks down and cries because he has a shred of humanity. It's one or the other. But you know who stops Pandora? Wonder Woman. She lassos the box and pulls it and she grabs it and she turns evil in another good panel. And we see an evil Wonder Woman, which looks very mythologized, right? Like you would see this in a Greek story. As opposed to Superman just turning like everything about him looked dark and gray and it felt more evil. Hers is more mythological evil. And that's the end of the second comic. Those are two comics that I've covered. And both of them, when they're part of the entire arc, I really enjoy. I don't think I would have bought them by themselves. One, because one was a Phantom Stranger comic and I wouldn't buy that. But by themselves, I don't think the stories hold up. They're probably not worth the $3 for each part of the story. And while I get they're not supposed to find a true answer, there's nothing to make it a mystery, right? So none of the comics here feel like a mystery. They feel like we're waiting for the plot. So it's not like, oh yes, let's find out who's behind this. It's not like it's a mystery where we can chase down something. It's more we're waiting for something else to happen. And I feel if, I don't know, maybe another story arc or another comic issue or something where we can see the mystery unfold, that'd be cool. Because right now we're just waiting for the plot to happen because everyone else is chasing stuff that has no answer or any clue or anything. So overall, as a whole, I enjoyed it. My personal preferences for story aside, the art was great. There's some very cool panels. Katana's was powerful. Her slicing through the bubble was great. Zoriel flying down and doing the flame thing, that was cool. Wonder Woman turning evil was cool. Superman breaking through the cave ceiling, that was cool. But yeah, if you have any feelings about these two comics, if you felt the story was good, let me know. If you thought it was terrible and you agreed, let me know in the comments down below. But I have nothing else to say. Thank you for joining us in the Long Box. Have a good one.
Welcome back to Long Box Diving, where we explore comics and story arcs pulled from the Long Box. This is the final episode of Trinity of Sin, and we pick back up with Pandora thinking back on her training through the past. And the main focus of this comic is about the essence of sin, or the essence of evil. What is evil? And we see that Pandora's thoughts on this, on how to conquer evil and how to get rid of these seven deadly sins. And Pandora's talking to her teacher in the past. And she's asking if evil can be pulled out of the world, kind of like a poison, like venom from a snake. And she's wondering if we can do that. And Pandora's teacher responds, evil is not a substance. Evil is a result. So then we flash back to the fight. Everybody's trying to get the box away from Wonder Woman, who has turned evil because the box is influencing her thoughts. And we see the 7 deadly sins all around, and Pandora's trying to get them to stop, but all she really sees is these sins all around her. And all the sins have shown up to this fight, and they are promising Pandora they are going to destroy the world in her name. And she finally understands that this has all been a trick. They shouldn't try to open the box. They got to get rid of it. But she still can't get them to stop fighting over the box. So we flash back into time again to see her training with yet another teacher. And she comes to understand that both light and dark are required to understand what is light and what is dark. And evil itself is nothing by itself. It is just the absence of good. And so, therefore, you need evil and you need good to understand each other. And then we get a flashing montage of her back and forth from the fight, back to the past, fight, back to the past. And she finally comes to an understanding that the sins are the evil within herself. And we see her understanding, and as it is applied to Envy. Envy's there, she's running toward him, starts shooting, and she kills Envy by acknowledging the envy within herself. And Envy falls over dead, head explodes, blood and guts everywhere, but it's all green, kind of weird. And Pandora looks over to the other sins and says, who's next? So this doesn't fix the issue with the box itself, but it kind of does resolve Pandora's personal story, her own personal issues. And so that's nice. I guess that's at least we have that. So in the next issue, we see the Justice League fighting Wonder Woman for control of the box. And Wonder Woman is being affected by the box. She's evil, and she's fighting everybody. Now, it's kind of cool. We see Wonder Woman fighting everybody. She is holding her own against most of the league, and that's kind of cool. And that's when we see Shazam shows up. Captain Marvel makes his appearance back into the main storyline. And he does the one thing that he was told not to do, kind of like any other kid that's out there. He was told not to touch the box. Shazam shows up, grabs the box, and there's two things that happen. Shazam turns into Black Adam, Black Shazam. I don't know what you would call him, but he turns evil. And this actually kind of affects the way the box works. And now everybody around them is starting to go crazy, is starting to go evil, want the box for themselves. And this is kind of fueling the box as well. The box seems to be growing in power. And I'm not so much sure if it's because of Shazam's magic or it's because of Shazam's connection to the mystic force around the world. Now we see a full 2-page spread where it kind of starts affecting all these different magic users across the globe. And so I'm not sure if that's exactly the case or not and what's going on there, but it does affect the box. The box starts powering up and people are starting to go crazy. They all want the box. It is like a free-for-all. So we see this effect on the box, and it says Zatanna must cast a spell to protect herself, Pandora, and Stargirl. But the rest of the league is tearing into each other, and they're each fighting over the box to gain control of the box. Now Frankie gets a hold of and starts holding everybody off, though he's affected as well. He's kind of, this is mine, I'm the only one that can hold him. So Zatanna throws everybody away and takes possession herself, kind of with magic. She's not really touching the box, but she gets hold of the box. Stargirl then turns on Zatanna. She isn't able to keep fighting off the influence of the box. She turns on Zatanna and Pandora, and things start going sideways. Wonder Woman punches Zatanna, and she drops the box, and it gets picked up by Constantine. Constantine is back. Now, Constantine seems to have a natural resistance to the box. And he says because you can't corrupt something that's already corrupted. But I kind of think it's because he's already come to terms with the corruption that happens to be in his own soul. So he understands what he is and who he is and how he is. So he's not affected by it. So Zatanna and Constantine are then teleported to Hephaestus's temple. We're back to where all of this kind of started. And we find Madame Xanadu tied to a chair underneath the temple. Batman's team, Constantine and Zatanna go down to meet Madame Xanadu, and then Batman team kind of just shows up. I'm not sure exactly where they came from. I don't remember. I think they came out of the afterlife through a mirror with the Phantom Stranger, but they end up getting to the temple, And they come down to find Madame Xanadu and Constantine and Santana there, and we finally learn what the box is actually for. Madame Xanadu says, "Hey, it wasn't a prison. This box is actually a doorway, and we need to try to keep it shut." So in the next issue, we start getting a little backstory on the Outsider and what's kind of going on here. So it all starts with the League when the League was battling Darkseid, and the wall between the realms had become weakened. Now, on a side note, I really like this panel. It has great art, great colors, and it's very well done. I just kind of like this whole battle thing with Darkseid is very cool. We then see two people pop out from a portal. We don't know who they are, but they say the others didn't make it. I'm assuming it was the Outsider and the Mole that's within the Justice League, which has not been revealed yet. We see that he recognizes Pandora's box. Now, they're on Earth, and he's looking through history, and he sees Pandora's box, and he understands what it is, and he realizes that where it comes from the same place he comes from, and he believes he can take it and use it to bring his master into this realm. He then works with Dr. Ivo. He starts building the Secret Society. We see that he has planned for Pandora to bring the box to Superman. All this kind of hinged on the Wizard Shazam going to Pandora. And he brings the box. She expected her to bring the box to Superman, being the purest of heart, and that Superman would be affected. And then he caused Superman to kill Dr. Light, which then caused the Justice League to get involved, which then caused Shazam to grab the box, and on we go. Now, nobody with Batman, nobody with Constantine are being affected by the box right now until Shazam and Wonder Woman and all the rest show up at Hephaestus' temple. And then it's all going crazy again. Batman tries to keep the box away from everybody. He grabs it kind of with a rope or a lasso or some sort of whip, and he's trying to run, and he's dodging away from everybody. And then we see Superman, or the Green Lantern starts going after a Batman and trying to fight Batman. Batman's fighting him back, say, "Hey, you know Hal Jordan." Nice. And then we see Superman come up and say, "Hey, we should be worrying about me." It just takes a pillar and drives it into the Green Lantern. This is a great two-page spread. It's pretty awesome. So the fighting between the two teams picks back up, and Superman, for some reason, starts going after Batman really like hardcore. There's a panel where we see a Batman is sitting up on a pillar saying, "Hey, I am being affected by this. We need to do something about this before we all go crazy." But Superman is affected by the sin of jealousy. He likes Wonder Woman. He thinks Batman's going to steal Wonder Woman or something along those lines. So he's going to kill Batman. He said, "I'm not going to stop till Batman is dead." And then all of a sudden, Superman falls over, crashes to the ground, seems to be dead. Then we see Firestorm comes over and says Superman is being killed by kryptonite, and that he wouldn't have recognized the radiation signature if Waller hadn't asked him to actually create kryptonite earlier. So we see where that foreshadowing kind of comes back into play here. Why did Firestorm mess with kryptonite to begin with? I didn't understand it first when I first read it, but now I understand that it was all to kind of tie this little plot point back in, so Firestorm can understand that it was kryptonite. And okay, I think it could have been done a little bit better, but that's what it is. And so now we see that we have the first traitor introduces herself. So they're like, well, how did kryptonite get into Superman's brain, into an optic nerve? How did that happen? And that's where the Atom girl, Miss Atom, shows up and said, "Hey, I'm the traitor. I was on both teams." So she kind of played off that, "Oh, woe is me, I'm on both teams. I betrayed both sides." But in reality, she betrayed both sides because she's on a third side. She's a triple traitor. And that she's the one that had come across that portal with the Outsider. She was the actual Mole. And again, if we look back to the foreshadowing of the tarot cards that were thrown into the air, her card was one of the only cards that was not face up, and there was one more, and that was Grids. And that's where we see Cyborg standing there, and she goes, "Hey, you're a traitor too, Cyborg." And he's like, "What?" And then all of a sudden, he just like his body just kind of gets ripped apart, and it reforms, and it's Grid. And Grid is more like the Ultron type Cyborg. It was really cool panels, those two of them, and they're really neat, well done. And I like how Cyborg got torn apart, and Grid kind of gets reformed, and that was very cool. And very cool the way that was done. So now we know we had two traitors on that team, and then the Outsider takes control of the box. And he starts to explain that it was never magic, it was actually science, and the goal was to power it through magic to actually get this doorway to open. And you see the box getting more and more powerful as the Outsider's holding it. Now, he explains that Pandora's box is a lot like the mother box. Makes sense. It's like a boom tube type thing. So Pandora's box. There's a great panel right here where it says, and now all of you are thinking that the butler did it. Doesn't explain it yet, but that was really kind of cool. So finally, there's a portal that opens up, and out walks Aquaman, and he falls flat on his face. Now, Madame Xanadu then says, "Hey, you guys weren't the Trinity of Sin." He's looking at Pandora. You guys weren't the Trinity of Sin. The Phantom Stranger, the Question, and you, Pandora, were not the Trinity of Sin. It was not the three people that were in front of the Council of Wizards at the beginning of the story. That's not what it meant when they said the Trinity of Sin. What it meant was the source of all evil in the universe, and that was from Earth 3. So, we then get a full panel spread of 6 people walking out of the portal over the body of Aquaman. And I believe this is the evil version of Aquaman. And now we see is like a Batman, a Flash, a Firestorm, a Green Lantern, a Superman, and a Wonder Woman. Of course, I believe they all have different names, kind of like Superman's Uberman. I'm not sure what their names are yet. They didn't actually say it here in the story. But man, Firestorm's looking creepy, like very Zorn in the new Hickman run. Very cool looking. I like the way it looks. But we see the Outsiders actually comes and kneels in front of the evil Batman character, and we finally understand what he's the butler. He's Jarvis. So the Outsider, the evil butler, is actually the evil Jarvis from Earth 3. Now the Justice League is in disarray. Everybody's been fighting everybody. They're all kind of beat up. Superman is out for the count. They've got to get the kryptonite out of his head, and everything just looks really bad. And the Justice League, and then the Justice League sitting there, and they look up, and there's the crime. And they call themselves the Crime Syndicate, and the Crime Syndicate decides to, at that point, attack. And that's where the story arc closes. So this is the end of the story arc. And maybe one day we'll get the next one and actually look at the Crime Syndicate story arc. But I hope you all enjoyed this story arc as much as we did. And we are going to be doing a live stream discussion about this story arc soon here on our channel. And invite you all to come, chat with us, and let's just have a conversation on what this story arc's about and how much we enjoyed it and the different things that are in this. It was a really neat story arc. A lot of foreshadowing, a lot of things going on, a lot of intricate detail. I like the way Goff John writes that, and the art was fantastic all the way through it. So I hope you all can join us on our live stream chatting about this story arc. And thank you again, and we'll see you next time in the Long Box.